This is the broken windows. My name is Micaela Ramirez. So with broken windows today, we'll be talking about basically how Foot Patrol came to be. We're also going to talk about the start of the broken windows theory and how it came to be in the experiment that was conducted. And you'll also see the racial discrimination throughout the presentation. So it starts in the 1970s when Foot Patrol began again. So in New Jersey, they began a program that was called the Safe and Clean Neighborhoods Program. So basically, this put patrol officers in neighborhoods to basically get to know their communities, to be more one-on-one with the people. But the goal was to see if crime rates decreased. So the study went on for about 5 years, and after they reviewed the first 5 years data, they were all very surprised by the results. So it had actually shown that crime rates had not even began to decrease at all, not even a bit. So they were all very surprised to find that. But one thing they did find was that there was a lot more trust in the people with their community officers. So they had more trust with them. They felt more open to communication. They felt comfortable discussing crimes with them, giving them leads. So that was good. Community ties began to flourish again. But you can see how patrol car officers differ from Foot Patrol, from both the residents' view and the officers' view. So from residents, they tend to not trust patrol carmen as much as they trust Foot Patrol. One, because they're basically strangers. At least with Foot Patrol, you get that one-on-one time with your officers. You get to know them, they get to know you. They get to know what the community expects out of them, and all that good stuff. And then when it comes to officers, patrol car officers are very different than Foot Patrol officers. Foot Patrol officers seem to have better communication skills with the public versus patrol car officers. They tend to see themselves as, higher up, but they also do feel very protected by the vehicle that they're in, which makes them handle situations very differently than Foot Patrol officers. They don't really get that one-on-one time with people as much as Foot Patrol officers do. So some situations can escalate quickly. So as you see, the community is basically going to trust Foot Patrol officers more than patrol car officers, because basically they're strangers. At least their local officers know who they are, things they need help with in the community. They kind of care. You get that one-on-one time with them. But patrol car officers, you just don't get that with. They're more of an authority form, more to enforce the law rather than maybe discuss it and help it, maybe try to find a solution. So Kelly went on a patrol watch, and what he observed was actually not quite what I was expecting. So this begins with order maintenance. They typically set down in, minority neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods that basically have more crime, higher than the other areas. So that's where the racial discrimination comes into play. They seem to think that minorities need to be watched more than, just everyday people, I guess, the whites. But Kelly observed how regulars are treated versus how strangers are treated. Regulars are, the basic people who are always in the neighborhood, who know the town, who the officers are familiar with. And strangers are people who they don't really recognize, who aren't really from town, who don't come around the neighborhood a lot. Disorderly behavior is handled to keep the community happy and keep trust between the police and the people. The police on patrol know what these neighborhoods want out of them. What they basically need the officer to control and not to control. Officers make that decision on what crimes to pursue based off of what the neighborhood expects the officer to do. So, every neighborhood differs from each other. So officers, they get to know their people one-on-one. They get to know what they expect out of them, what kind of things they expect the officer to be following up on, not following up on, things like that, which gives the officer more control of the situation, but it also makes the people feel at ease and safe with them. And if there's an officer in the area, there's less likely for crime to be committed just because they're in that area basically on a regular basis. And they can tell when, weird strangers are coming up and causing problems. I don't know why it won't let me show this slide, so I'm going to show it like this. Philip Zimbardo, this is the man who conducted the broken windows experiment. So he had put an automobile in the Bronx and an automobile in Palo Alto, California. This is where the racial discrimination comes into play, because I believe if this hadn't happened, maybe the same thing would have happened with the Palo Alto car. So the car that was left in the Bronx was left in a black neighborhood, but was also left with the hood open. So you have a broken down car with the hood already messed with. The automobile in Palo Alto was just a broke down car in the side of a white neighborhood. Generally no crime in this area. But the fact that the car had not been touched yet made a big difference. In the Bronx, the car had been more vandalized quickly because it already had an issue. The trunk was up. So that gave the people in the neighborhood more incentive to go and finish the job. Why not make it worse if someone already left it there unattended? And this is what the broken windows theory follows. But the automobile in Palo Alto, they actually had to smash the windows a few days after in order to get more people in the neighborhood to commit crime on it. So I don't see how that's very fair. That kind of sets the theory off a little bit. But it basically goes to say that vandalism can happen anywhere, but what's done about it decides the future of that particular neighborhood. So if it's untended, then basically the community control is going to disintegrate. And if that happens, then basically the police in the area have really no control over that area of a neighborhood, which is what we're trying to avoid. So it starts with property. If you let the property go bad, then the people go bad. And this just leads to bad ties with the police. Because then criminals come to play and all that. So crime is unwelcomed, but unintentionally. One thing that was mentioned in the article was the Robert Taylor homes of 1962. They were built by 1940s chairman of Chicago Housing Authority, Robert Taylor, who was a black, and there was 20,000 blacks living in this community. There was racial bias going on because it was black on black crime, so officers were not really taking the situation as seriously as they should have. Black on black crime, why not let it happen? But over the years, things have changed. Community ties with the police are good. And the people feel more welcome coming to their local officers about crime and for help. Overall, I just have a question for everyone. How do you see this applying to today's society? Does race play a role where you see it? And is this problematic? I see the differences in the east side of Tucson versus the north side of Tucson. And I clearly see how broken windows is a problem here on the east side as compared to the north side, where when vandalism or destruction occurs, it's immediately fixed within a week, where over here on the east side, it could take months for them to fix something that's vandalized. So what are your thoughts? Thank you.